The night sky above Earth was calm, stars shining quietly as they had for millions of years. People on the surface went about their lives, unaware of the storm that was about to arrive. Far beyond the atmosphere, beyond the reach of human eyes, something massive was moving. It was not a comet, not an asteroid, but a fleet of ships so large they blotted out the light of distant stars. The alien fleet had come to Earth. They came with laughter, not fear. To them, Earth was nothing but a small blue rock circling a weak sun. They had crushed stronger worlds, burned brighter civilizations, and erased entire species from existence. Why would this little planet be any different? Their commanders looked at Earth with contempt. Their voices, cold and sharp, echoed through their warships. They mocked the humans below. They called them fragile, weak, helpless creatures trapped by their own gravity. They said humans had no claws, no fangs, no wings, no power. They called them animals pretending to be a civilization. The alien fleet did not attack at once. Instead, they broadcast their voices across space, down through satellites, hijacking television screens, radios, and even mobile phones. All over Earth, people froze as strange voices spoke in languages they had never heard but somehow understood. "Earthlings," the voices said, "you are nothing. You are children holding sticks while we carry fire. Your planet is ours. You cannot resist. Kneel, or be destroyed." The message repeated again and again, mocking, laughing, daring humans to speak. In every city, fear spread quickly. Governments held emergency meetings. Soldiers were placed on high alert, though they knew their weapons were useless. Fighter jets, missiles, even nuclear warheads would mean nothing against ships the size of mountains. The world expected panic, but something strange happened. The leaders of Earth did not fight back. They did not shout in anger. They did not answer the alien threat at all. Instead, they remained silent. It was a silence that confused the invaders. In their long history of conquest, every world they had attacked had begged for mercy, had screamed in fear, had tried to strike back, even when hopeless. But Earth said nothing. The alien fleet waited, expecting a response, expecting surrender. When none came, they grew irritated. To mock the humans further, they sent down small scout ships, thin silver blades cutting through the clouds. Their mission was simple: fly over the cities, measure defenses, and return with proof of Earth's weakness. The scouts pierced the atmosphere, slicing through thunderclouds, heading straight toward the largest human cities. But then, something unexpected happened. One by one, the alien scouts vanished. Their signals cut off instantly, no explosions, no screams, no wreckage falling from the sky. They were simply gone. Alien commanders watched in confusion. They sent more. Again, silence. Dozens of ships disappeared into Earth's skies, swallowed by something unseen. The invaders began to whisper among themselves. This had never happened before. On every world they had conquered, their scouts had returned with ease. But here, on this quiet blue planet, their technology failed them. Their arrogance began to crack. Some commanders laughed, saying the humans had found a way to jam signals, nothing more. Others frowned, unsettled by the mystery. Deep inside their warships, soldiers shifted uneasily. They had mocked Earth. They had laughed at humans. But for the first time, a thought crawled into their minds, a thought they never wanted to believe. What if Earth was not weak? On the ground, humans continued their strange silence. People stared at the sky with fear, but also with something else. Their eyes were calm, almost too calm. It was as if they were waiting, as if they knew something the aliens did not. The silence of Earth became heavier with each passing hour. The alien fleet, so massive and powerful, began to feel something they had never felt before: unease. Something about this world was wrong. Something about these humans was dangerous. The stars around Earth seemed darker now, the night sky heavier, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. The alien fleet did not yet know it, but their mocking words had only awakened a truth they could not imagine. Far below, deep under the oceans and buried under mountains, something was stirring. Humanity's true power was not asleep. It was waiting. And soon, the galaxy would understand why Earth was never a world to mock. The alien fleet hovered above Earth like a wall of shadow, countless ships stretching across the orbit. From the windows of their war machines, alien commanders looked down and smiled with cruel confidence. They had taken planets with defenses far stronger than this fragile world. To them, humanity was only a distraction, a small step on their endless path of conquest. And yet, the silence from Earth continued. No message, no answer, no plea for mercy. It was as if the humans had turned to stone, watching but saying nothing. This silence made the aliens restless. Their pride could not accept it. So they began their mockery. Across the skies, the aliens broadcasted messages. Giant holograms appeared over the cities, filling the air with the faces of alien leaders. Their sharp teeth and glowing eyes looked down on billions of humans like wolves staring at sheep. Their words cut through every television, every phone, every screen. Pathetic creatures, they said, your world is a prison of mud and water. You are insects hiding in nests, building toys you call weapons. You cannot even leave your small rock. You are nothing. You are food for stronger beings. People watched, their hands trembling, their hearts heavy with fear. The aliens laughed louder when they saw human faces frozen in shock. They took pleasure in crushing hope before the first shot was fired. One commander, with skin like burning metal, leaned close to the camera and spoke directly to the people of Earth. Do not worry, he said. We will keep some of you alive. We will take your children and teach them to serve us. The rest of you will burn. Look at us, humans. Look at the future you cannot escape. The cruel words echoed across the planet. In the streets, families clung to each other, unsure if this was the last night they would see. Soldiers stood ready with weapons they knew would not matter. Politicians sat in rooms, pale and silent, their plans useless. Still, the leaders of Earth did not respond. The aliens grew impatient. They wanted screams, they wanted begging, they wanted the humans to break. But all they received was silence. The alien fleet decided to push further. More scout ships were sent into the atmosphere, streaking across the clouds like falling stars. They flew low over the largest cities, their dark hulls glowing as they scanned the land. People on the ground looked up in terror as the alien ships roared above skyscrapers and oceans. Children cried. Parents tried to calm them, but even their voices shook. Then, once again, the unexpected happened. One scout ship flying over New York suddenly vanished from every radar. Its signal blinked out like a candle snuffed in the dark. No explosion. No falling debris. Nothing. At first, the aliens dismissed it as a failure of communication. But then another disappeared. Then another. Across the world, in London, in Tokyo, in Cairo, in Sao Paulo, alien scouts vanished without warning. The alien commanders shouted in confusion. Screens inside their control rooms went black one after another. Their soldiers reported no wreckage, no sound, no trace of the missing ships. They had entered Earth's skies, and then they were gone. The alien fleet had fought many battles, but never had they faced something so strange. Technology had never failed them before. On other worlds, their scouts returned with detailed maps and perfect reports. But here, Earth swallowed them whole. Anger burned through the fleet. To cover their fear, they laughed again, mocking louder. Clever little tricks, one commander sneered. They hide in caves and think they can blind us. But they are still nothing. Their tricks will not save them. The broadcasts continued, more vicious than before. Do you hear us, humans? You think silence will protect you? You think your shadows can fight us? We will burn your oceans, turn your cities into dust, and your silence will turn to screams. You cannot hide from us. The people of Earth listened in silence, but something was changing in their eyes. Fear was there, yes, but also something else. A strange calmness, a quiet strength. As the aliens mocked, humans began to understand. Their enemy was arrogant, too arrogant to see the truth. And somewhere deep within Earth, something stirred again. The alien scouts had not simply vanished. They had been taken. The fleet did not yet know how, but they would soon discover the price of their laughter. That night, above the silent planet, the mighty invaders began to feel a shadow they could not explain. The silence of Earth was not weakness. It was the calm before the storm. The alien fleet circled Earth like vultures, their endless rows of ships glowing in the darkness of space. They had mocked, they had threatened, and still no answer had come from the planet below. Their pride demanded a reaction, but none arrived. The silence grew heavier, and with it came unease. In the command chambers of the alien flagship, officers argued loudly. Some believed the missing scouts had been destroyed by human weapons. Others dismissed that idea, claiming humans were too primitive to strike ships that fast. But the facts were clear. The scouts were gone, and not a single piece of wreckage had been found. To lose one or two ships could be a malfunction. To lose dozens was a warning. The commander, his eyes glowing like molten fire, slammed his clawed hand against the console. Enough. Send more scouts. This world is trying to play tricks. Crush their skies. Leave nothing hidden. Orders were given. Hundreds of small ships broke away from the fleet, diving into Earth's atmosphere. The sky across the world lit up with streaks of fire as the alien scouts pierced the clouds. On the ground, people pointed to the heavens in terror, believing this was the start of the invasion. Jets scrambled from air bases, though the pilots knew they could not fight such machines. Missiles were armed, but commanders hesitated, knowing the aliens would strike back with far greater force. Still, Earth remained silent. The alien scouts spread out over oceans, mountains, and cities. They scanned everything: power plants, military bases, even the smallest villages. Their sensors found nothing unusual. No superweapons, no advanced armies, no hidden ships. To the aliens, it looked exactly as they had expected, a weak world with weak people. Yet one by one, the scouts began to vanish again. A ship flying over the Atlantic Ocean blinked out of existence. Another vanished near the Himalayas. In the Amazon rainforest, 3 disappeared together in a flash of static. Alien operators shouted in alarm, their screens going black. "We are losing them again," cried one. "No signals, no damage detected, they are just gone." Panic stirred through the fleet. These were not accidents. This was something deliberate. The commanders leaned forward, eyes narrowing, trying to understand. But there were no answers. Their technology, built from centuries of conquest, could not explain what was happening. On Earth, people watched the sky with a strange mix of fear and curiosity. News channels reported the strange disappearances. At first, people thought it was propaganda, lies meant to calm the population. But then live footage showed alien ships vanishing above cities without warning. Crowds gasped as massive vessels simply blinked out of sight, leaving only silence behind. Some whispered that it was divine punishment, that some higher power was protecting Earth. Others believed humans had hidden weapons never revealed to the public. Whatever the truth, hope began to flicker in human hearts. The aliens, who had come with laughter and arrogance, now looked confused. Inside their warships, soldiers whispered nervously. They had never seen their technology fail. They had never lost ships without a fight. They were used to enemies screaming in terror, not enemies staying silent. Something about this planet felt cursed. The commander roared to silence his crew. "Do not be fooled. These are tricks of cowards. Humans cannot face us directly, so they hide like insects. We will crush their world until nothing remains." His words carried strength, but his eyes betrayed doubt. Even he could not explain why Earth was different. Outside, more scout ships entered the sky, but fewer and fewer returned. The disappearances spread like a disease across the fleet. Every loss was like a whisper of warning. Something was waiting on Earth, something the aliens could not see. Yet in their arrogance, they refused to retreat. They thought fear was weakness, and they refused to admit weakness belonged to them now. From space, the fleet's sensors detected strange patterns deep below the oceans. Massive movements, too large to be whales, too smooth to be natural. Something was rising from the depths. At first, they thought it was tectonic activity, earthquakes, or volcanic eruptions. But then the shapes became clear. Gigantic metallic forms moved beneath the waves, ancient machines waking after long silence. The readings terrified even the boldest soldiers. "Commander," one officer whispered, "something is moving down there, something alive or something built." The commander bared his teeth, forcing a laugh. "It does not matter what rises. We will break it. Nothing stands against us." But his voice was shaking. On the ground, humanity's silence began to make sense. The people were not praying for miracles. They were waiting. They knew something the aliens did not. Something hidden for ages, buried where no one could reach it, was beginning to awaken. The warning signs were no longer small. They were everywhere: missing ships, strange signals, movements in the oceans, the calm silence of billions of humans who should have been afraid. For the first time since their arrival, the alien fleet did not laugh. The silence of Earth had turned into something else, something darker. The invaders had mocked, but the game was changing. And in the shadows of the deep, humanity's true power was beginning to rise. Beneath the dark oceans of Earth, something ancient began to stir. The water trembled as gigantic shapes moved in the depths, breaking free from the sand and stone that had buried them for thousands of years. The alien fleet above the planet watched their sensors flash with strange readings. At first, the commanders believed it was a natural phenomenon, maybe volcanic eruptions or earthquakes. But the signals were too precise, too structured. These were not random movements of nature. These were machines. Massive machines. The alien officers argued in confusion. "It cannot be human technology," one shouted. "They are primitives. They cannot build machines of this scale." Another officer's voice shook as he answered, "If they are primitives, then where did these readings come from? What are we seeing now?" The commander narrowed his burning eyes at the holographic displays. Below them, something was rising. Suddenly, the waters of the Pacific Ocean split apart as a colossal structure pushed upward. Waves like mountains crashed against distant shores. From the depths came a machine larger than any city, its surface covered in scars of age, its glowing lines burning with fresh power. People across the coasts stared in shock as the ocean itself seemed to break. Fishermen dropped their nets. Children screamed. Soldiers at naval bases froze in terror as the monstrous shape rose higher and higher, blocking out the sun. The alien fleet panicked. Their sensors confirmed it was not a natural creature. It was a weapon built by humans, yet older than human history. The commander shouted for the fleet to attack, but before the order could be carried out, another machine rose from the Atlantic, then another from the Indian Ocean, then others from under mountains, deserts, and ice. One after another, the hidden titans of Earth awakened, shaking off centuries of silence. Their massive bodies hummed with energy, as if waiting for the moment they were needed. The aliens had mocked humanity as weak, but now they saw weapons unlike anything they had faced before. On the ground, humans finally lifted their eyes with something stronger than fear. Hope returned, though it came with awe. Nobody had known these machines existed. Not governments, not armies, not scientists. They had been hidden so deeply that even humanity had forgotten them. But now, as alien voices mocked from the skies, the machines answered the call of survival. The largest of the titans raised its head to the heavens, and a voice, not human, but carried through human systems, echoed across the alien channels. "You thought Earth was unprotected. You thought humans were prey. You were wrong." The alien commanders shouted in anger. "Impossible! They are bluffing. Fire on them now." The fleet unleashed their weapons, beams of plasma and storms of missiles raining down upon the rising machines. The sky lit up with fire, thunder shaking across the oceans. But when the smoke cleared, the titans still stood. Their surfaces glowed brighter, absorbing the energy of the attacks. What should have destroyed mountains had not even scratched them. One of the Titans raised an arm and launched a single blast of light into the sky. The beam pierced an alien battleship clean through, cutting it in half like paper. The ship exploded, fire scattering across the void. The alien fleet went silent. Their arrogance shattered in an instant. Never in all their conquests had they seen power like this. The commander gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stay calm. It does not matter. They cannot have many of these machines. Keep firing. But as more Titans rose, their numbers grew beyond what anyone expected. From hidden valleys, from frozen seas, from caves carved into the earth itself, they emerged. Humanity had once built an army greater than the stars, and now that army had awakened. On Earth, people watched from rooftops and open fields as the Titans walked across the land, their footsteps shaking the ground. Some fell to their knees, believing gods had returned. Others raised their fists, shouting in triumph. For the first time since the aliens arrived, humans no longer felt powerless. They had been mocked, called weak and primitive. But now the galaxy would see the truth. The alien fleet tried to regroup. Their ships circled, firing again and again, but each attack was absorbed, each strike answered. The Titans were not only powerful, they were alive with intelligence, adapting with every moment. One alien officer whispered, his voice trembling, "What if these humans are not new? What if they have fought wars before, wars older than us?" No one answered him. In the silence of the command chamber, fear grew like a shadow. The mocking laughter of the aliens had vanished. All that remained was the sound of explosions and the terrible truth rising from Earth's depths. The awakening was complete. Humanity's hidden guardians had returned. And this was only the beginning. The first alien battleship burned in the sky, its broken pieces scattering like falling stars. For the people of Earth, it was the most shocking sight in human history. For the alien fleet, it was a nightmare they had never imagined. These were not the cries of victory they had expected to hear. These were screams of disbelief, of soldiers watching their strongest weapons fail. The great Titans of Earth stood tall, their glowing forms shining brighter with every strike they absorbed. Alien cannons unleashed storms of fire, but the Titans only grew stronger, their armor shifting, adapting, bending in ways that no technology should. Every attack that hit them seemed to feed their energy instead of breaking it. The alien commander shouted orders, desperate to regain control. His voice shook as he commanded all ships to fire at once. 1,000 beams of plasma filled the sky, burning the atmosphere with violent light. The world below trembled as oceans boiled and mountains cracked from the fury of the barrage. For a moment, it seemed as if even the Titans could not stand against such force. The humans on the ground covered their eyes, praying that the machines would survive. Then, out of the blinding storm, the Titans stepped forward unharmed. Their surfaces glowed with power stolen from the alien weapons. Their eyes, if they could be called eyes, burned like suns, turning toward the fleet above. And then they struck. One Titan raised both arms, unleashing a shockwave so powerful that half a dozen alien warships were torn apart in seconds. Another opened its chest, releasing a spear of light that pierced through the darkness, ripping apart ship after ship as if the fleet were made of paper. Soldiers inside the alien warships screamed in panic. They had been told humans were weak, fragile, and powerless. But now, as ship after ship was erased, they felt fear greater than anything in their long history of conquest. The commander tried to remain calm, but even his voice cracked as he shouted, "Pull back! Regroup! Do not let them surround us." But the Titans did not need to surround them. They moved with a will of their own, calculating every strike with perfect precision. No wasted energy, no mercy. They were weapons born of a war so ancient that even humans had forgotten it. And now that war had awakened again. On Earth, people cheered as the alien fleet began to retreat, but their cheers were filled with awe as much as joy. These Titans were not human armies. They were something far older, far stranger. Scientists across the world rushed to study the signals, trying to understand. Some whispered the Titans were built by ancient humans, survivors of a forgotten age when Earth had been part of a galactic war. Others believed they were left behind by an older race, entrusted to protect humanity when the time came. But no matter the truth, one fact was clear: humanity was no longer helpless. The aliens, who had mocked Earth, were now running. Inside their ships, the soldiers trembled. Fear spread like fire, infecting every corner of the fleet. Their weapons failed, their technology useless. The machines of Earth adapted faster than they could respond. For every ship they lost, the Titans grew stronger. For every attack they made, the Titans answered with greater fury. The alien commander's pride finally cracked. He looked at his officers with eyes filled with dread. "This is not possible," he whispered. "They should not have this power." But it was possible. It was real. And the galaxy's most feared conquerors were learning what it meant to be afraid. As the battle raged above, one of the largest Titans raised its arm again. With a single blow, it shattered the alien flagship's shield. The commander's ship shook violently, alarms blaring as fires spread across the control room. His officers stared at him, waiting for orders. But for the first time, he had no words. The Titan's next strike hit, and the flagship began to fall. It plunged toward Earth, burning like a second sun as it descended. The people on the ground watched in silence, their eyes wide, their hearts racing. Some screamed in fear that the falling ship would destroy them. Others stood in awe, realizing what this moment meant. The invaders who had mocked Earth, who had laughed at humans, were being dragged down in flames. The commander's final scream echoed across his fleet as the flagship broke apart in the sky. For the first time in countless conquests, the aliens were not the hunters. They were the prey. And humanity, once mocked as weak, was showing its true face. The fear belonged not to Earth, but to the stars. The alien flagship burned as it fell, breaking into fiery pieces that scattered across the atmosphere like fragments of a dying star. On the ground, billions of humans stared upward in silence, watching their enemies collapse for the first time. The sky that once carried only fear now carried hope, though no one fully understood the truth of what they were seeing. The alien fleet was broken, their pride shattered, their arrogance consumed by terror. But the Titans of Earth did not celebrate. They moved with a cold, steady purpose, as if this war was not new to them, as if they had fought such battles countless times before. Within the alien fleet, officers shouted in panic, demanding answers their commander could no longer give. "Our weapons cannot stop them. Our shields are useless. Every strike only feeds their power." Soldiers who once mocked humans now trembled, their hands shaking as they watched ship after ship vanish in fire. The commander, his face lit by the flames of his dying fleet, whispered the truth he had tried to deny. "This is not a primitive world. This is a battlefield we should never have entered." On Earth, human leaders gathered in hidden bunkers, staring at live feeds of the Titans. No one could explain where they had come from. The machines bore no flag, no crest of any nation. They did not answer commands from any government. Yet they fought for Earth with unstoppable strength. Scientists whispered theories. Some said the Titans were built by humans thousands of years ago, when Earth had been part of a galactic empire long forgotten. Others believed they were guardians left behind by a civilization even older, a race that had trusted humanity to inherit their power when the time came. But whatever their origin, one truth became clear: humanity was not as young as the aliens had believed. The aliens had called them weak, animals with toys. Now those same conquerors begged their commanders for orders, their eyes wide with fear. Messages crackled across the alien fleet. "We cannot hold them. We must retreat. They are not what we thought. They are older, older than us." The commander clenched his claws, his pride bleeding into despair. He looked at the Titans rising from the oceans, the mountains, the frozen poles of Earth. Their glowing forms filled the sky with a light older than the stars themselves. At that moment, he understood. Humanity had survived something long ago, something greater than his fleet could ever imagine. These were not weapons built in desperation. They were relics of a war so ancient and terrible that history itself had buried it. And humans, the so-called primitives, were the last survivors of that forgotten age. On Earth, ordinary people felt the weight of revelation. They looked at the Titans and realized their ancestors had not been as simple as they believed. Humanity carried a shadowed past, a hidden history written not in books but in the deep scars of the planet itself. The silence of Earth had not been weakness. It had been patience. They had waited until the moment came when the truth had to rise again. The Titans advanced, their energy growing brighter with every step. Another alien warship was destroyed in a single strike, its burning wreckage lighting the night. The fleet tried to scatter, but it was too late. They were trapped by their own arrogance, surrounded by powers they could not understand. Fear spread through their ranks faster than any weapon. The same soldiers who once laughed at Earth now begged to escape. Some even sent desperate messages, pleading with humans for mercy. But humanity gave no answer. Their silence was no longer fear. It was judgment. The alien commander collapsed to his knees inside the burning remains of his ship. He stared at the screens, at the Titans standing tall across the planet, and he finally understood the price of arrogance. "We mocked them," he whispered. "We mocked the last survivors of the old war." Across the galaxy, other civilizations listened to the screams of the fleet. They had watched from the shadows, expecting Earth to be crushed. But now they trembled as they realized the truth. Humanity was not the weakest race. Humanity was the most dangerous. The silence of Earth had been a warning, one the aliens had refused to hear. Now, in fire and ruin, the warning became clear. Humanity had risen before, and humanity would rise again. The revelation spread through the stars like fire through dry grass. Earth was no longer a world to mock. Earth was a world to fear. And the war had only just begun. The alien fleet that once darkened Earth's skies was in ruins. Where there had been thousands of warships, now there were only burning fragments drifting through the void. The Titans of Earth stood silent and unbroken, their glowing forms watching the sky like guardians of judgment. Humanity, mocked as weak and powerless, had revealed its true face, and that face was terrible. The aliens who survived tried to flee, their ships turning away from Earth, engines burning as they scrambled for escape. But the Titans did not allow it. One by one, beams of light shot upward, cutting down the fleeing ships with perfect accuracy. No enemy escaped. Each vessel that had come to conquer Earth was erased in fire. The alien commander, his ship torn and burning, screamed orders to retreat, but his voice was drowned by the cries of his soldiers. Fear had consumed them. Their arrogance was gone, replaced by the cold knowledge that they had awakened something far beyond their understanding. "They are not human," one soldier sobbed. "They are something else, something older." But they were wrong. The Titans were human. They were the forgotten legacy of a people who had once fought a war that had nearly destroyed the galaxy. And now, in this moment of invasion, that legacy had returned. On Earth, billions of people watched the sky. They had been terrified only hours before, but now they stood in stunned silence, their fear replaced by awe. No speeches were needed. No orders were given. The truth was clear to everyone. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not prey. Humanity was a storm waiting to rise. In the shadows of bunkers and command centers, world leaders whispered to each other. Some were afraid of the Titans, uncertain if they could be controlled. Others were filled with pride, realizing that Earth was stronger than they had ever imagined. But none dared to interrupt what was happening. The judgment was not theirs to give. It belonged to the Titans. In orbit, the last alien ships tried one final desperate act. A group of destroyers turned their weapons not on the Titans, but on Earth itself. They targeted cities, hoping that if they could not win, they could at least take humanity down with them. Plasma beams charged, missiles locked on. Billions of humans braced for the end. But the Titans moved faster than thought. Shields of burning light spread across the skies, blocking every strike before it touched the ground. The weapons meant to erase humanity vanished like sparks in a storm. Then, the Titans answered. With a sound that shook the air and cracked the heavens, they struck as one. Blinding beams of energy pierced through the last alien destroyers, reducing them to nothing but ash scattered across the void. In that moment, silence returned to the skies. No enemy remained. The fleet that had mocked Earth was gone. The people cheered, their voices echoing across the planet, but their cheers carried something more than victory. They carried a warning. For in the ashes of the alien fleet lay a message written in fire: humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Titans lowered their glowing heads, as if listening to the cries of Earth's people. Some believed the machines were alive, conscious, remembering their duty to protect. Others thought they were only weapons, acting on ancient programming. But when one Titan turned its gaze to the stars and released a deep, resonant sound, many felt it was speaking. Though no words were formed, the meaning was clear. It was not only a warning to the invaders who had come. It was a warning to the galaxy itself. Do not mock Earth. Do not challenge humanity. Do not forget what sleeps beneath the oceans and mountains of this world. The judgment was complete. The alien fleet had been destroyed, not just defeated but erased, their arrogance punished with fire. The galaxy, listening from afar, trembled. Civilizations that had once seen Earth as nothing now marked it as dangerous. Some swore to never approach. Others began plotting in secret, fearful but also curious. If Earth had such power hidden, what else did it keep buried? On the ground, life slowly began to return to normal. Families reunited, soldiers lowered their useless weapons, children looked to the sky with wide eyes. Humanity had survived, not by luck, not by mercy, but by power. Power no one had expected. Power no one could deny. The Titans, their judgment given, began to sink back into the oceans, the mountains, the frozen poles. Their lights dimmed, their bodies returning to silence. The Guardians returned to their sleep, waiting again for the moment they would be needed. Humanity watched them disappear, feeling both relief and unease. The world was safe, but it was no longer innocent. Every man, woman, and child now knew the truth. They were heirs to an ancient war, keepers of a power that could shake the stars. And as the last flames of the alien fleet faded from the sky, a new thought grew in every human heart. If the galaxy mocked them once, it would mock them again. If the galaxy came for them once, it would come again. And when it did, humanity would not hide, would not beg, would not break. They would rise, as they had risen now, and remind the universe why Earth was never a world to be mocked.